I once watched a man ruin himself by trying to be good. He gave without limits, forgave without memory, and sacrificed his inner calm for people who barely noticed his presence. Years later, I saw him again, transformed, not kinder, not louder, sharper, colder, controlled. He told me the world never changed, only his posture within it. He stopped being easy to fracture. That realization lingered because it was not only his story, it reflected a truth many avoid. Inside every person lived two selves. One explains, apologizes, tolerates, and hopes. That self bends endlessly, believing understanding will earn respect. The more it gives, the more invisible it becomes. The other self moves quietly. It does not argue or plead. It withdraws without ceremony. It chooses precision over approval. Most remain trapped in the first version until exhaustion reshapes them. Living too long as the one who absorbs everything dulls instinct. It replaces clarity with sentiment and discipline with habit. You become generous when you should be selective, patient when you should be decisive. This is not virtue, it is exposure. Long ago it was written that love without leverage invites danger. Not because cruelty is superior, but because unchecked softness teaches others how to use you. Control begins the moment you decide not to break for convenience. The first shift happens when you recognize where your energy has gone. Your weakness was never compassion itself, but the absence of discernment. You invested time and care into those who consumed without contributing. You forgave repeatedly, believing recognition would eventually arrive. It never did. In the mechanics of influence, what costs nothing is valued accordingly. When access is unlimited, respect evaporates. Ease of giving signals need signals control. This is how dependence disguises itself as kindness. Those who exploit do not target strength directly. They target guilt. They sense hesitation in your boundaries and apply pressure until compliance feels like morality. They rely on your reluctance to withdraw. Predictable mercy becomes a tool. Over time, you are no longer seen as generous but as permanent, replaceable. Explanations do not restore value. Consequences do. Respect grows where access is earned, not assumed. To step away from the ungrateful is not bitterness, it is accuracy. Distance recalibrates power. When warmth is no longer automatic, absence communicates what words never could. Indifference unsettles those who fed on reaction. Energy conserved becomes authority reclaimed. Attention redirected becomes strength recovered. This is not punishment, it is correction. The second shift is learning to metabolize pain. Pain strips illusion faster than instruction. It ignores excuses and exposes structural weakness. Those who collapse under pain seek fairness. Those who rise treat pain as data. They ask what failed and why. They examine where control was surrendered. Betrayal reveals misplaced trust. Loss reveals over-attachment. Rejection exposes dependence on external validation. Pain is not a verdict, it is a signal. Those who transform do not flee discomfort, they analyze it. They refine themselves within it. Every wound becomes a boundary. Every disappointment becomes discipline. Suffering is converted into awareness, awareness into strategy. This alchemy separates those shaped by circumstance from those who shape outcomes. When fear of pain dissolves, manipulation loses grip. The unpredictable mind cannot be steered. The third shift is abandoning the need to be understood. Explanation is often a plea in disguise. Most do not listen to understand. They listen to assess. Every clarification reveals motive. Every defense exposes leverage. Silence preserves ambiguity, and ambiguity preserves power. When you stop correcting assumptions, you regain position. Misunderstanding becomes insulation. Those who command presence rarely justify it. Their stillness creates gravity. They allow others to project, speculate, and fill gaps with their own insecurity. The refusal to explain unsettles, it signals self-possession. Control is not asserted through argument but through restraint. The less you need agreement, the more autonomous you become. Detachment follows naturally. Chasing validation shrinks stature. Pursuit of those withdrawing hands them authority. Detachment is not emotional absence, it is refusal to be owned by reaction. When disrespect appears, withdrawal speaks louder than confrontation. Absence clarifies value. Silence communicates limits. From detachment emerges boundary. Boundaries are not hostility, they are structure. Without them, chaos enters freely. Each tolerated violation trains others how far they may go. Limits enforced calmly create order. They filter those who respect strength from those who resent it. Boundaries do not invite conflict, they end it. Silence then becomes deliberate. Words are chosen, pauses are held. Observation replaces impulse. Others reveal themselves trying to provoke response. Information flows towards stillness. Authority grows where reaction fades. The one who controls response controls direction. Loyalty becomes selective. Blind allegiance is surrender. Devotion without leverage becomes captivity. Alignment must serve purpose, not replace it. Independence is preserved by conditional commitment. When withdrawal is possible, respect remains intact. Loyalty given strategically retains value. Finally, untouchability forms. Not arrogance, sovereignty. Insults lose traction. Manipulation finds no hooks. Validation is internal. Reaction is measured. Presence becomes firm. People sense it instinctively. They hesitate. They adjust. You are no longer available for fracture. This evolution is not gentle. It demands the death of old habits and inherited illusions. But what emerges is composure, control, a self that does not bend under convenience. From this place, nothing essential can be taken. Part B. Power matures when emotion no longer dictates movement. Most people are governed by impulse, reacting to what is said, what is done, what is withheld. Reaction hands initiative to whoever provokes it. Control begins the moment response replaces reaction. You learn to pause, to let moments breathe, to observe patterns instead of chasing relief. This composure unsettles others because it denies them influence. They expect resistance or compliance. Stillness confuses both. Pain, once integrated, changes posture. You no longer seek comfort from those who caused the wound. You extract information instead. You study timing, language, behavior. You identify where access was misused and where authority was surrendered. This is not bitterness. It is refinement. Those who rise do not romanticize suffering. They utilize it. Memory becomes armor. Experience becomes instinct. Silence deepens its function here. It is no longer avoidance but positioning. In conversation, restraint shifts balance. Others fill space with insecurity, revealing intent. In conflict, silence drains momentum. In negotiation, it invites concession. The one who speaks less listens more, and the one who listens more sees further. Vision precedes dominance. As this posture stabilizes, absence becomes deliberate. You are no longer everywhere. You choose when to appear. Scarcity alters perception. When presence is not guaranteed, it is valued. When words are not abundant, they carry weight. This selectivity is not performance, it is conservation. Energy preserved becomes leverage applied later. Reputation begins to reshape itself, not through defense or explanation, but through consistency. You do not chase correction. You let behavior overwrite narrative. Over time, reliability speaks louder than rumor. Stability erodes doubt. Those who observe begin to adjust expectations. Authority forms quietly. Boundaries solidify further. They are no longer reactive lines but pre-established standards. Enforcement is calm, immediate, and unemotional. There is no argument, no justification. Distance replaces debate. Those who respect structure remain. Those who resist remove themselves. The environment cleans itself. Loyalty becomes a tool, not an identity. You align without dissolving. You cooperate without surrendering autonomy. Dependence is avoided. Optionality is preserved. When allegiance is perceived as conditional, it is treated with care. When withdrawal is possible, respect remains intact. Information is filtered. Not everything felt is expressed. Not everything known is revealed. Disclosure becomes strategic. The less others know about your internal state, the fewer levers they possess. Mystery is maintained without theatrics. Privacy becomes power. At this stage, fear changes shape. It is no longer something to be eliminated, but something to be managed. You recognize fear as a signal, not a command. It informs without controlling. Those who master fear gain access to calculated risk. Calculated risk produces advancement. Consistency replaces intensity. You no longer rely on bursts of effort. Systems carry momentum. Habits replace motivation. Discipline becomes automatic. This predictability of action paired with unpredictability of timing creates stability without stagnation. You stop seeking fairness. Fairness is irrelevant to outcome. You seek position. Position absorbs impact. Those with position survive turbulence. Those without it react endlessly. By focusing on placement rather than validation, you gain durability. Gradually, the environment responds. Interactions change tone. Challenges soften. Opportunities appear without request. This is not coincidence. It is accumulated signal. Your behavior trained others how to engage you. Boundaries taught respect. Silence taught caution. Consistency taught trust. Opposition still exists, but it lacks traction. Attacks slide off structure. Manipulation finds no entry point. You are no longer reactive, no longer dependent, no longer available for misuse. This is not invincibility, it is insulation. As insulation increases, movement becomes easier. Decisions require less deliberation. Instinct aligns with strategy. Action feels natural. There is no rush because urgency has been replaced by control. Timing becomes intuitive. You begin to recognize distraction quickly. Provocations appear obvious. Emotional hooks fail. You step around chaos instead of into it. Others exhaust themselves while you advance incrementally. Progress compounds quietly. At this level, power is not something you display. It is something others feel. They cannot articulate it, but they adjust to it. Their behavior shifts. Their tone changes. They hesitate where they once pushed. This is not intimidation. It is calibration. You maintain humility not as virtue, but as strategy. Arrogance invites correction. Composure avoids it. You continue learning. You observe patterns. You refine methods. Stagnation is avoided through curiosity. The second self has now stabilized. The one who does not argue. The one who does not chase. The one who does not explain. This self does not need permission. It does not seek applause. It moves with purpose and restraint. What remains is momentum guided by awareness. The foundation has been laid. The structure holds. From here, power is sustained not through effort, but through alignment. Once alignment is established, influence no longer requires force. It flows through consistency, through presence, through the quiet authority of someone who does not need to announce intent. You stop convincing. You start allowing outcomes to follow behavior. This shift confuses those still operating on noise and urgency. They mistake calm for passivity. They misread patience as weakness. That miscalculation becomes their error. Your inner dialogue changes first. The constant need to assess how you are perceived dissolves. Self-evaluation replaces external measurement. You judge actions by effectiveness, not approval. This internal reference point stabilizes identity. When identity stabilizes, manipulation loses leverage. There is nothing to pull against. You begin to see that most conflict is bait. Arguments are invitations to waste energy. You decline them without explanation. This refusal denies others the satisfaction of reaction. Over time, provocations reduce, not because people become kinder, but because patterns are learned. Resistance without engagement trains behavior. Strategic withdrawal becomes instinctive. When environments stagnate or relationships drain momentum, you exit cleanly. No speeches, no ultimatums. Absence communicates finality more clearly than confrontation. People often realize value only after access is removed. By then, position has already shifted. Your tolerance for chaos diminishes. Not out of fragility, but clarity. You recognize that disorder consumes attention. Attention is finite. You guard it. This selectivity sharpens focus. Focus accelerates progress. Progress reinforces authority. Risk assessment evolves. You no longer fear loss as intensely because attachment has loosened. Detachment creates flexibility. Flexibility enables calculated moves. You are willing to walk away from situations that do not align, even if they once mattered deeply. This willingness is felt. It changes negotiations before they begin. Silence continues to deepen. It becomes a tool for pacing. You respond when timing favors you, not when pressure demands it. This delay unsettles others. They reveal urgency. You gain advantage. Timing becomes asymmetric. You notice how people test boundaries subtly. Small requests, casual disrespect, minor intrusions. You address them immediately and proportionally. Early correction prevents escalation. Calm enforcement communicates self-respect without hostility. This consistency builds reputation faster than grand gestures. As reputation consolidates, others begin to mirror your behavior. They become more measured, more cautious, more respectful. Not because they admire you, but because systems adapt to stable forces. You have become one. Your circle narrows naturally. Quantity gives way to quality. Relationships become fewer but more aligned. This reduction increases trust. Trust improves coordination. Coordination amplifies output. Synergy replaces friction. You no longer reveal ambition. You execute quietly. Results speak. Visibility arrives after completion, not before. This sequence protects momentum. By the time attention turns toward you, the position is already secured. When setbacks occur, recovery is swift. There is no collapse into self-pity. You assess, adjust, continue. Resilience is no longer an effort. It is default. Emotional recovery time shortens. Focus returns faster. Power now expresses itself through restraint. You could respond but choose not to. You could dominate but opt for positioning. This choice preserves long-term advantage. Short-term victories are often traps. You avoid them instinctively. You begin to understand that fear and respect are not opposites. They are adjacent. Respect often contains an element of caution. Caution arises when boundaries are clear and consequences are consistent. You do not threaten. You demonstrate. Information management becomes second nature. You share selectively. You listen actively. You store details without reacting. Knowledge accumulates. Over time, this archive informs strategy. You see patterns others miss because they are busy broadcasting. Your emotional range remains intact, but expression is controlled. You feel deeply without leaking energy. This containment creates gravity. Others sense depth without accessing it. Mystery remains without effort. You stop explaining decisions. Explanation invites debate. Decisions followed by action establish reality. Those aligned adjust. Those misaligned fall away. This sorting process simplifies life. As complexity reduces, clarity increases. You know where you are going. You know what you tolerate. You know what you protect. This certainty removes hesitation. Movement becomes efficient. You also recognize when to show warmth. Kindness becomes deliberate, not reflexive. It is extended where it strengthens bonds, not where it invites misuse. This discernment preserves humanity without sacrificing control. At this stage, power is no longer reactive or defensive, it is generative. You create conditions rather than respond to them. Others operate within frameworks you establish. Influence becomes ambient. You remain adaptable. Rigidity is avoided. You update strategies as environments change. Flexibility prevents obsolescence. Curiosity sustains relevance. The third phase completes the internal shift. You are no longer transitioning. You are operating. The old patterns have lost their pull. The new posture holds effortlessly. What remains is expansion guided by discipline, growth without exposure, movement without noise, authority without proclamation. The structure is stable. The direction is clear. The final phase will not add intensity. It will remove the last dependencies. The final shift arrives quietly. There is no surge of adrenaline, no dramatic break from the past. What disappears instead is dependency. You no longer need permission, reaction, validation, or closure. These were the last threads tying you to external control. When they dissolve, nothing pulls you off center. You notice that pressure loses its bite. Deadlines still exist, expectations still form, but urgency no longer dictates behavior. You move at your own pace. This independence unsettles others because it removes leverage. When nothing can rush you, nothing can corner you. Your sense of self becomes internally anchored. Identity is no longer negotiated through feedback. Praise does not inflate you. Criticism does not destabilize you. Both pass through without residue. This neutrality sharpens perception. You see clearly because emotion no longer clouds assessment. You understand now that most people operate through cycles of impulse. Desire spikes, fear follows, reaction occurs. You step outside this loop. Observation replaces participation. From this vantage point, outcomes become predictable. Predictability creates strategic advantage. You also recognize that control is often mistaken for dominance. True control is subtle. It appears as choice. You choose when to engage, when to withdraw, when to act. This selectivity conserves energy. Conserved energy compounds. Relationships transform again. You are neither cold nor indulgent. You are precise. You offer presence when it adds value. You withdraw when dynamics erode integrity. This consistency builds trust among the few who remain. With them, cooperation is efficient and quiet. You become comfortable with being underestimated. Underestimation creates freedom. Expectations drop. Surveillance loosens. Within this space, you maneuver without interference. When results surface, they appear sudden to observers. In reality, they were prepared long before. You stop correcting misconceptions about yourself. Let narratives exist. They do not define you. Truth does not require consensus. It requires alignment with action. Over time, outcomes overwrite stories. You also understand that power is temporal. It must adapt or decay. You invest in learning continuously, not publicly. Skills accumulate privately. Competence deepens. When environments shift, you adjust smoothly, others scramble, your communication becomes economical. Fewer words, clear intent, pauses used intentionally. People listen more closely because nothing is wasted. Brevity signals confidence. You notice that conflict avoidance has been replaced by conflict mastery. You are willing to confront when necessary, but only when resolution or advantage is likely. Otherwise, you disengage. This restraint frustrates provocateurs. They seek reaction and find none. As influence stabilizes, leadership emerges naturally, not through titles or claims, but through reliability. Others align because it simplifies their path. You provide direction without coercion, structure without rigidity. You remain vigilant against complacency. Comfort is monitored. Stagnation is corrected early. You introduce challenge deliberately to maintain edge. Growth remains intentional. You also accept solitude as part of the posture. Fewer people can meet you at this level. This does not create loneliness. It creates space. In that space, clarity thrives. You reflect periodically, not obsessively. Adjustments are made quietly. There is no announcement of change. Change simply appears in behavior. At this stage, the world interacts with you differently. Requests become measured, challenges become indirect. Respect manifests as caution. You have become a fixed point others navigate around. You no longer seek to be untouchable. You simply are. Touch requires access. Access is controlled. This boundary is felt without explanation. What once felt like effort is now baseline. Discipline is automatic. Emotional regulation is instinctive. Strategic thinking is habitual. You have integrated the traits rather than performing them. The final realization settles in. Power was never something to chase. It was something to remove obstacles from. Once noise, dependency, and reaction were stripped away, what remained was authority. You move forward without announcing arrival. There is nothing to prove, only directions to follow. The world continues to be unfair. Betrayal still exists. Manipulation persists. None of it surprises you. None of it controls you. You have become difficult to read, slow to provoke, and costly to misjudge. This is not menace. It is stability. From here, expansion is quiet. Influence spreads through consistency. Presence carries weight. Silence speaks first. You are no longer forming power, you are operating from it.